Olivia, honey, why are you putting so much stress on yourself? Nora said with a fake, polished smile, carefully sliding the legal documents for our commercial bakery into her designer handbag. Vince needs to focus on growing the business. He is a man, and he has a reputation to maintain as a respected local businessman. Your main project right now is your daughter. Nurse her, take her for walks, enjoy this time. Why would a young mother spend sleepless nights buried in financial reports? I stared at my mother-in-law, feeling an icy rage building inside me. My 3-month-old daughter, Chloe, was sleeping peacefully in her stroller, completely unaware that her father and grandmother were trying to strip us of everything we had spent years building. Everything they were touching had my fingerprints on it. The recipes, the brand, and the relationships with our biggest commercial clients. But because I was staying home with the baby, they believed I had become completely powerless. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. 4 years earlier, when Vince and I got married, we had almost nothing. No savings, no investors, and no safety net. Just an old oven in my apartment kitchen and an idea I could not let go of. The concept for Sweet Art Pastry Studio was mine from the very beginning. I had a degree in food science and specialized training in pastry arts. Baking was never just a hobby for me. It was the craft I had spent years mastering. During the first 2 years, I practically lived in the kitchen. I developed our signature recipes from scratch, testing dozens of versions until every flavor was perfect. I searched for local suppliers who could provide real, high-quality ingredients like premium European chocolate and fresh dairy products. There were nights when I worked 16 hours straight beside the raging ovens, with flour on my clothes and pure exhaustion in my eyes. Vince helped with local deliveries, scheduling, and basic administrative tasks. He was good at organizing everyday operations, but I was the one creating the actual product. Together, we made it work, and the business grew faster than either of us expected. Corporate clients and high-end restaurants began placing massive recurring orders. We moved from my apartment kitchen into a professional commercial production facility, hired employees, and eventually bought a large 3-bedroom home for our growing family. From the outside, we looked like a massive success story. But right before Chloe was born, Vince started suggesting a change. "Olivia, you are about to become a mother," he told me gently. "Why should you worry about health department inspectors, corporate paperwork, commercial leases, and all the stress that comes with running a facility? Let me handle the corporate side as the sole director. You need to focus on the baby." At the time, I mistook it for genuine love and protection. I had no idea I was walking straight into a trap. The nightmare began immediately after I came home from the hospital. The attentive husband vanished, replaced by an arrogant, controlling man I barely recognized. "Vince, I need you to transfer some money for Chloe's formula, her medical supplies, and the pediatrician appointment," I said one evening in an exhausted voice. He did not even look up from his phone screen, where he was browsing custom upgrades for his Range Rover Sport. "More money," he snapped coldly. "Olivia, I sent you $1,500 through Zelle 5 days ago. Where did it go? You sit at home all day, you do not have business expenses anymore, so your personal costs should be almost zero. I am breaking my back at the plant while you are here taking it easy at home." I felt my chest tighten. Taking it easy? Off of my recipes, my sleepless nights, and my client relationships that were bringing in millions every year. But suddenly I was expected to beg for every single penny for our child while Vince made sure I remembered who controlled the bank accounts. Nora became a regular visitor, arriving in expensive clothes just to add fuel to the fire. "Olivia, you need to be more practical," she would say, sipping coffee from a porcelain cup. "Vince is a successful local businessman now. He needs to look the part, wear tailored suits, and drive a nice car for client meetings. Why do you need new clothes while staying home with a baby? You stay home in a bathrobe anyway. You should protect your husband, he is the sole provider." The breaking point happened on a Thursday afternoon. Vince left for a meeting and accidentally left his open laptop on the kitchen counter. Notifications began flashing across the screen. I had never gone through his private messages before, but then one notification caught my eye. It was from Nora's personal attorney. "Vince, the paperwork for transferring the commercial lease and reassigning the trademark rights is ready. We can proceed with signatures at 3 o'clock. My hands went cold. Trademark rights? Commercial lease? Those were my company and my life's work. I unlocked his messaging app using our daughter's birthday. What I read kept me paralyzed on the kitchen floor for several minutes. Vince and Nora had been planning this for 4 months. They were systematically draining valuable assets out of Sweet Art Pastry Studio. Industrial ovens, refrigeration units, and delivery vans were being sold off far below market value to an LLC registered under Nora's younger brother. On top of that, they were secretly preparing to put our house on the market and transfer the funds to an offshore account owned by Nora. Their plan was simple and cynical. Bankrupt the original company, show the court zero income, file for divorce, throw me out on the street with pathetic child support, and continue running my bakery under a brand new corporate shell. In one voice note, Vince laughed. Where is she going to go with a newborn, Mom? She will run back to her mother in the countryside. Legally, I am completely clean. So what if she claims she created the recipes? Without me, she is just a cook. She should be grateful if I send her a couple $100 for baby formula. I sat on the floor clenching my jaw. The tears dried up instantly. The love, trust, and affection vanished, replaced by the cold calculation of a food scientist used to measuring every gram in detail. They thought having a newborn had made me a helpless victim. But they forgot one massive detail. They forgot who created this company from scratch, and they forgot who held the exclusive legal rights to the master recipe formulations. When Vince came home that evening, expecting an exhausted woman, I greeted him with a soft, calm smile. Hey Vince, do you want me to warm up some dinner? No, I already ate at a restaurant. He dropped his keys on the counter. My mom is coming over tomorrow to check on the house and inspect the place. Honestly, you need to keep things tighter around here. Of course, honey, I replied quietly. All night, while my husband slept soundly, I worked on my laptop. Vince believed the company owned all the intellectual property. But he forgot that during our very first year, I had personally registered the trade secret applications for our unique formulations and trademark under my own name as the author and developer. The company was merely licensing them, and they had failed to pay my personal licensing fees for over a year. Furthermore, I still had an original signed promissory note proving that my brother had loaned us capital to start the business, which had never been repaid. The next morning, the moment Vince left, I called Karen, a top corporate litigation and family law attorney who had been a close friend since college. Karen arrived and reviewed the messaging threads, bank records, and legal documents. A sharp smile appeared on her face. Olivia, your husband and his mother are complete amateurs, Karen said. Transferring company assets to relatives for 10% of their value right, before filing for divorce, is a textbook fraudulent asset transfer under corporate law. What does that mean for us? I asked. It means any judge will declare those contracts void, Karen explained firmly. We will freeze all business accounts, place an emergency lien on the house, and return every piece of equipment to the company balance sheet. Furthermore, your husband is facing criminal fraud charges for intentional bankruptcy, and your mother-in-law and her brother will be named as co-conspirators. The following Friday morning at 11 o'clock, Nora was sitting in my kitchen lecturing me on how to properly organize a household when Vince's phone started ringing off the hook on the counter. I picked it up and pressed speakerphone. It was our head baker from the production facility. Vince. Thank God you answered. The man panicked. We have a total disaster. Sheriff's deputies and corporate lawyers just walked in with legal papers. They served an emergency injunction, seized all the equipment, and froze every corporate bank account. We are legally prohibited from shipping any orders. Nora dropped her porcelain cup, and it shattered into pieces across the tile floor. What? What injunction? Who dare do this? She screeched. 30 minutes later, the front door slammed open and Vince burst into the house. The confident businessman was gone. His tie was crooked, his face was pale, and his hands were trembling uncontrollably. Mom! It is a complete collapse. Vince gasped. All my accounts are frozen. The house sale was blocked, and the buyers are threatening to sue us for breach of contract. I walked out of the nursery holding Chloe in my arms, completely calm. Vince, I said quietly, your uncle already gave a full sworn statement to our legal team an hour ago. His face twisted. What? He signed an affidavit confirming that the equipment purchase contracts were completely fraudulent. I continued. He was not willing to risk facing criminal fraud charges just to satisfy your mother's greed. The silence in the room was suffocating. Who do you think you are? Vince yelled, taking a step toward me. You are going to walk out of here without a single cent. Before he could take another step, the front door opened, and Karen walked in accompanied by 2 legal assistants. Mr. Ross, step back immediately, Karen said with absolute authority. The court has already granted our emergency petition. All suspicious asset transfers are voided, and your company has just been served with a formal demand for hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid licensing fees owed directly to my client. Nora gasped, clutching her chest. But this is family. Karen did not flinch. Family does not give anyone permission to steal. The legal process lasted 4 months. To avoid criminal prosecution for fraudulent asset transfers and intentional bankruptcy, Vince was forced to sign a full settlement agreement strictly on my terms. The house was transferred entirely debt-free into a protected trust for Chloe and me. Vince surrendered his entire corporate stake in Sweet Art Pastry Studio and paid full restitution for the unauthorized use of my intellectual property. I completely restructured the business, reopened Sweet Art Pastry Studio under my own sole ownership, hired an incredible operational team, and brought in a professional nanny. Every single major commercial client returned to me immediately because they valued the quality of my product and my reputation, not the empty promises of my ex-husband. Today, Vince works as a regional sales manager for an outside food distributor. He had to sell his Range Rover Sport just to pay off his legal debts and settle the penalties with the house buyers. Nora no longer gives unsolicited advice about a man's status or a woman's place. Whenever we cross paths in town, she quickly looks away and avoids my eyes. They truly believe that being home with a newborn had made me weak and defenseless. But they forgot one fundamental truth. A mother protecting her child and her hard work has the power to destroy any scheme they could ever dream up.